This is Deontay Wilder's latest interview where he's talking about this Anthony Joshua situation, the 50 million, the brainwashed AJ fans, Tyson Fury, AJ himself, all that stuff. And I didn't really get too much from this interview other than the fact that Deontay Wilder believes that Anthony Joshua actually wants to fight. This is what Wilder said over and over again. He thinks Joshua wants to fight and that Joshua wants that 50 million, but it's his team that won't allow him to take it. This is what Wilder keeps saying over and over again. Wilder says that he talks to Joshua privately and he's told Joshua certain things, and Joshua has gone back to his own team and asked certain questions, and he says that his Joshua's team are misleading him. This is what Wilder keeps saying. Now, I do not dismiss the possibility that that aspect of what Deontay Wilder is saying may be true, that Joshua and his team might not be on the same page, okay? But one of the reasons that I think they might not be on the same page is because Joshua has not renewed his contract with Matchroom. You see, and so this is something which must be in the back of the mind of Eddie Hearn and Barry Hearn. Joshua could go through with this Wilder fight, earn millions, and then jump ship and work with a different promoter, or, promote his own fights. Anthony Joshua is at the stage now where he could actually do that. And so the fact that he's going into this Wilder fight having not renewed his contract with Matchroom, that must be a concern to Eddie Hearn and Barry Hearn and everybody there. So that potentially is something which people should be considering, that a lot of people are not considering, that there might be some kind of issue between Hearn and Joshua. But as far as who wants to fight, well, there you go. Deontay Wilder himself has said Joshua wants to fight. But then again, he contradicts himself, because sometimes he said, several times in this interview, he says Joshua is afraid, or Joshua's not a real champion, or he's a manufactured champion. And then he'll turn around and say, well, Joshua wants to fight. He wants the 50 million. So he contradicts himself all the way through. He says that AJ is brainwashed and this, that, and the other. But as other fighters have pointed out, look at the money that AJ has made. If AJ is a puppet, if AJ is a manufactured champion, look at the money he's made compared to the money Wilder has made. And look how long Wilder has been fighting. Look how many fights he's had. What is he had? 40 fights? Joshua's had just over 20 fights. Look at their careers. Look who's won more belts. Look who's beat more top fighters. Look who's made more money. And you're calling Joshua a puppet? You're saying that Joshua has been brainwashed and mismanaged and whatever? Really? This does not compute. And he does address one thing here. He addresses the Klitschko situation, where people have criticized Wilder for not taking on Klitschko. Joshua's taken on a bunch of people who Wilder's never fought, like Klitschko, Joseph Parker, etc. He says, and apparently his manager Shelley Finkel, shortly after he beat Berman Stavern, when Deontay Wilder was a newly crowned WBC champion, his manager Shelley Finkel came out and said he's not ready for Klitschko. And Deontay Wilder said, well, maybe that did happen. Maybe Shelley did say that, but I didn't say that. And that was me at the time, because I didn't have many amateur fights. Well, believe it or not, Joshua didn't have many amateur fights either. Joshua wasn't some amateur with 100 fights. No, he didn't have much more amateur experience than Deontay Wilder had. Facts. Yet Joshua's career was moved at a much faster speed than Deontay Wilder's career has been moved. Wilder's career was moved at a snail's pace. Yeah, well, Joshua's was moved way faster than that. So that does have to be said. And, you guys watch this interview for yourselves and let me know what you think about what Deontay Wilder is saying. And also, here's another thing where Wilder's contradicting himself, because he's saying that Joshua's team are scared and they don't want to fight. But then when he is asked, do you think the fight is going to happen next? Wilder says, well, I don't know. If he's so certain that Eddie Hearn and Joshua don't want the fight, then why is he uncertain about whether the fight's going to happen or not? Yeah, if he was certain that they don't want it, he should be able to say with conviction that the fight's not going to happen next. Shouldn't he? It makes sense, right? If you're certain they don't want it, then they're not going to take it. Why would they? You're not a mandatory challenger, you're just another champion. So if you're certain they're not going to take it, then they will not take it. Or sorry, if you're certain they're afraid and they don't want it, then they're not going to take it. So what he's saying contradicts itself. Yeah? Because he's saying, oh, I'm not sure. Maybe the fight will happen. I don't know. Maybe it will happen next. So I think that at the end of the day, the fighters, and I've always said this, want the fight. It's just the politics behind the scenes that needs to get resolved in order to, make this fight a reality. And whether it happens in their next fight or whether it happens the fight after that, at this point, I don't really care, just as long as it gets signed. Obviously, I'd prefer it to be their next fight, but I'd rather it get signed and they have to go and fight somebody else first than it not get signed at all. That's my point, all right? If Wilder goes and fights Brazil, Joshua goes and fights Povetkin, but yet they've signed to fight each other afterwards, I'd rather that than they not fight each other at all. And I'm sure most of you can agree with that. So, yeah, let's hope it gets signed. Have a watch of this interview. See what you think. See if you can discern anything. You can take anything from it, glean anything from it other than what I've already talked about. But, yeah, for me, it was just Wilder self-aggrandizing throughout the interview, waffling on about how he's a real champion and how Eddie Hearn is a liar and a fraud and how Joshua's afraid, but Joshua wants the 50 million, but Eddie Hearn won't let him take it and all this kind of stuff. And how they're scared and they don't want the fight, but, well, the fight might happen. I'm not sure if it won't. That's what Wilder's talking about. And look, I rate Deontay Wilder as a fighter. Don't get it twisted here. I think he's an underrated fighter. I think he's been underrated for many years. And anybody who's been following my channel over the years will know that I've been one of the people sticking up for Deontay Wilder for years. So it's kind of ironic and sad that at this point you've got all these Wilder fanboys who have jumped on the bandwagon within the past year. All right, some of them have jumped on the bandwagon since the Ortiz fight. These are not people who were Wilder fans a couple of years ago. They've just jumped on the bandwagon, and a lot of them are attacking people like me. When I was defending Deontay Wilder years ago, when I was talking about how talented Deontay Wilder was years ago and saying that he was better than people were giving him credit for. Yeah, me, you go check my catalog of videos. You go check my post fights for Deontay Wilder fights where I was saying, you know what? This guy don't get the credit he deserves. This guy is better than people realize. Just because he's ungainly and he looks clumsy at times, don't overlook his strengths. I was saying this for years, but it is what it is. Let me know what you feel about this interview in the comments, people. It's happening. I'm out.